Mr. President.
Senator from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I will get to the primary reason that I asked for time on the floor today. I did want to say that if it was within the rules and that I would be able to acknowledge people in the gallery who happen to be my great staff that have done extraordinary casework for years and years, and they're visiting here. If it was within the rules for me to recognize them, I would, but I understand the rules that I will not. But I do welcome them nevertheless. Mr. President, I'm here. Yesterday, the President had a tour up in Michigan, I believe, and a reporter asked him a question about me in particular. Said, how do you feel about, Senator Tillis says that the potential indictment of the Fed chair seems a bit excessive. I didn't use those words, but that was how the question was postured. And in response to that, the President said, that's why Tom's not running for office anymore. Now, he went on to say very nice things, that he likes me and we work together. I like the President. As a matter of fact, I know many people would probably be shocked to hear this, but I've never had a crossword with the President. We've never had an elevated discussion in either direction. My guess is if it came from one direction, it would have ended up that way, but it never has. Matter of fact, the President has a quality to him that I find really endearing, like when I called him out of the blue because my mom was talking about him. She's a big fan of the President. Called him out of the blue on a Saturday afternoon and picked up the phone. I said, Mr. President, would you speak to my mom? She loves you. Got on the phone, graciously spoke to her for about 5 minutes. A few months later, I was down in Florida, and I had an aunt and uncle, same thing. Called them up, same thing. He can be a gracious person. The President, though, got it wrong he was right in saying that I'm not running anymore. But the reason that I made the decision not to run again, Mr. President, and I decided it was just easier to do it here versus answer the countless questions out in the hallway, it's because in the moment where he and I had a disagreement, I had to make a decision about how I could be most helpful to him. And so if I ran for re-election, I would necessarily always have to think about what boundaries I should have in expressing my concern, and that creating complications for my campaign. There are red lines. There are just certain things that I would disagree with and would have to take the heat in a campaign. But I thought in the moment I would be far better equipped to give the President my advice on policy matters if I removed any doubt whatsoever that my decisions would be based upon the consequences of either getting his support or not having his support in a campaign. And so when I did my announcement and said that I was wanting to put myself in a position where I could call balls and strikes, it was so that I could do something that I believe some people in the White House are not particularly concerned with. The night that I told the President he should find a replacement, the press has gotten this wrong. The President did not ask for people to replace me, and then I decided to retire. The President and I were having a dialogue that night, and I told the President that I thought it was time for him to look for a replacement, that I had decided not to run for re-election. My last communication that night with the President, it's not verbatim, but pretty close. I told the President, I said, Mr. President, if I prove anything else to you in the next year and a half, I hope that I can prove to you that I care about your legacy and you have people around you who don't. There are people who are surfing his wave until they go to the next one. There are young people that have never served in office and don't understand the consequences of looking around corners and protecting this president. There are people that are more concerned with their next job and the next presidential campaign that they may be able to get on than making sure that this president is as successful as possible. So I decided, by just making a decision not to run for re-election, I can speak truth to a president that I hope goes down in history as the most successful Republican president in the history of this country. He has that potential if he starts to recognize advice that he's getting that I think is bad advice and won't age well. And I'll get to a few. I'm going to keep my temperature down. I told everybody this isn't cranky Tom. This is This is Thom trying to explain a very serious subject. Ladies and gentlemen, the thought of the United States taking the position that we would take Greenland, an independent territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, is absurd. Somebody needs to tell the president that the people of Greenland, up until these current times, were actually very, very pro-American and very, very pro-American presence. We had as many as 17 military installations in Greenland at our height, and frankly, I bet that once we get through this tension that we have today, that they would be willing to accept us. So we've got the power projection capability in Greenland, and we haven't necessarily put a 75-year alliance in NATO and dissolving it in the mix. That's the smart, sustainable way to achieve the president's goal of securing the Arctic. The not smart, unachievable way is whoever told the president that this was a viable path. It doesn't make sense.